Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revolution, and today we're going to be reviewing X-Terminators. It's a Marvel comic book that I don't really pay much attention to when it was coming out. A few people did ask for it, and I thought, yeah, you know what? Let's get a few extras in. I like the cover; it's really bold. I like the coloring from it. And then you open up to page 1, and you're like, oh, okay, that's unusual for an X-Men comic book. It's not like Marvel don't have this kind of thing happen in their comic books, but they're usually within a certain imprint like Max or whatever. And this one, it was just a little bit right there in front of the street, and throughout the comic book, there's an awful lot of swearing. I mean, it's Marvel swearing, so there's a term for it where they replace the letters in swear words with a punctuation. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's that throughout. And it makes this comic book an awful lot of fun, I've got to say. I mean, yeah, fun is an abstract kind of concept sometimes. I mean, I've got some of my regular customers who will only buy horror-themed comic books, either actual proper horror books or stuff from adapted from TV and movies, and that's probably fun for them. But this feels more just like overtly fun. Like, that's its intentionality. It is trying to make you enjoy yourself without really worrying about exactly how that is for the most part. And it's great and it works. And yeah, I've got a friend sometimes that when we talk about comic books, and I would say, oh yeah, it's just fun. He'll be like, oh, well, you know, Shorty, I don't like fun. And I think it's because in his own way, he tries to find more depth and meaning in comic books, which is absolutely fine. I think you should do that. I, for one, I've often said in my reviews that genre fiction is overlooked because people don't understand that what it's trying to do is use the genre to actually tell important stories, usually about like the world we're living in or the creators' lives, and giving portrayals of what the future might be if things carry on the way they are. All these things are valid. This one is a very fun comic book, but it also does try to do something like that. And I don't want to put words into the mouth of the creator here. Leah Williams, I'm not too aware of. I don't really pay too much attention to her Twitter, or at least I haven't done it until recently. So if I'm speaking out of turn and she watches this, I hope she understands that this is just my interpretation and I'm not trying to put words in her mouth. But it feels like this is a comic book where it's spending at least the first third looking at how women are seen and portrayed and experienced, and how people's opinions of them change based on how they look and how they talk. Part of this comes down to a trope which I think I'm seeing less of these days, or at least within the media I'm enjoying, which is this idea that women can't be friends with each other and in a way that's actually wholesome and pure, or true even. There always seems to be written as there's some underlying viciousness underneath there. There's political games being played and drama playing out all over the place. I don't think that's true. I think there's a difference between when male characters are written doing banter and female characters are written using the same kind of language. It's done as being far more malicious. I don't think that's true at all. I and my friends will talk to each other in ways that would be considered absolutely offensive to a lot of people in the world. If I met a stranger on the street who was acting or wearing something which I quite liked in the same way that my friends would, I would be genuinely nice to that person. I didn't know them. My actual friend, I'd probably give them some grief for it. I was going to swear there, to apologize. And you get this laid out brilliantly in the first few pages of this comic book. 3 lines of amazing dialogue, which had me absolutely smiling. I'm not just going to read them out for you. You should go and get this comic book, because I think delivery and timing kind of matters at this one. And I am not a comedian. I'm not a professional writer. So actually seeing Leah Williams lay out the page and the paneling and the speech bubbles in a certain way so it flows as a conversation and feels natural, like dialogue should do in comic books, and funny as all hell, then yeah. And it tells you about how we think women would talk to each other. I'm sure there's some people who would look at this and think of it like, well, these women clearly aren't friends, and look at how they're talking to each other, but then we'll go and speak with their male friends in a bar and probably be even worse to them and think that's a sign that they get on. It's nice to see this kind of reversal. The artwork plays into it a little bit as well. I'm afraid I've forgotten the artist's name. Just bear with me 1 second. Carlos Gomez. And they are really good. There's some fantastic action sequences in this one that are timed to perfection. There's lots of physical comedy in it, but it's also early on, especially a certain J. Scott Campbell-esque kind of feel to the artwork and the layouts, but never to the same degree and never the same reason, I don't think. Campbell feels like, I mean, more intelligent, more people who pay more attention to this kind of thing than me will tell you a lot more about how he does a bit more male gazy, and it's slightly more objectifying, slightly. But this one, it feels like if that's what you're trying to get from it, you're missing the point. And it's done so knowingly that I think it can't be done for any other reason. It ties in again with how they talk to each other about the way they're dressed and the way they're presenting themselves to the public. If you just look at the artwork and you get from that like you don't think women should be wearing stuff like that, or that they should only be wearing things like that because of how you as an external viewer appreciate them, then you need to rethink what you're talking about and actually pay attention to how these characters are written and how they're drawn, because altogether it adds something really quite nicely. All that going on, and it's also a great action horror-esque comic book. This is like genuinely unpleasant things happening. It's full of gore and violence and death and brutality, but it's also funny and lighthearted and adorable. There is one bit where somebody's throwing up, which some people have problems with. I've got a friend who really can't watch that happen on screen, and it's clearly fake, so be aware of that. But it's a mature reader comic book through and through, even if you don't actually get the swearing out there. There are some times where you don't need to know the exact words to know exactly what they're saying, and their intent and their character comes through so effectively doing it. Thoroughly enjoyed this comic book. I hope you get a chance to read it. I'm going to do at least one more today because I've still not read Creepshow, and I really want to get that done. And there's a new Valiant comic book, which I really want to check out because I like the artist and the writer of that one. So make sure if you do want to get my thoughts on anything else that's coming out at the moment, hit like and subscribe. You won't miss out on anything. But until we see you again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.